Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm bringing you a review of the Minolta CLE. So before the Minolta CLE, there was the LEICA CL. And the LEICA CL was a collaboration between LEICA and Minolta. And they signed a little agreement saying that they would work together, and they released the CL in 1973, and it was shortly discontinued afterwards. And around 1980 is when the Minolta CLE was released. It became a pretty popular rangefinder camera and LEICA alternative because of the price point. It's much cheaper than the typical LEICA rangefinder cameras. It's part of the reason why I got myself one. Now, the camera itself, it is a very compact body. It's very well built. It's not metal, but it's made out of this, I guess you would say hard plastic. It's I mean, it's partially metal, but it's definitely some plastic parts as well. So the Minolta CLE comes with the 28, the 40, and the 90mm frame lines in the rangefinder. The CLE had the M Rocker Minolta lens that would usually come with the camera when you purchased it, even though I have the Woodlander 40mm lens, which is some say it's better, but honestly I've heard great things from the Minolta 40mm lens, so I feel like you can't go wrong with either one. You can get either one for actually a pretty good price. But of course, a lot of people would buy this camera because you can put any M mount lens on there. So this camera has a 0.8 meter close focus distance when you're focusing with the rangefinder patch, which is pretty good in my opinion. Also, the shutter is very quiet on this camera. I would fire it off right now, but I do have a roll of film in here, so I'm not going to do that because I don't want to waste a shot. This camera also has a built-in light meter, and with that built-in light meter comes exposure compensation, which actually really comes in handy because on my color films I tend to overexpose them, so I'll just put the exposure compensation up like +1 or something. So I pretty much know that I'm not going to underexpose anything, so that really comes in handy for me. The shutter speed goes up to 1,000th of a second, which is it's pretty nice because the shutter is actually electronic shutter. Unfortunately, the camera will not fire without a battery in it. That is a drawback to this camera. I'm not thrilled about that. I mean, it's not the end of the world. You just have to have those two LR44 batteries, which isn't the greatest thing ever, but it's, like I said, it's not the end of the world. Another drawback to this camera is that the light meter only works in aperture priority mode. So when you're shooting manually, you cannot use the light meter. So if you don't have an external light meter with you, you will have to turn to aperture priority mode, take the reading, and then flip back to manual mode, which isn't that hard to do, but it's not the most practical thing. But other than that, I can't really say too many bad things about this camera. So this camera also has a self-timer on the front of the camera, which is probably like the first thing you see when you look at this camera. You can see like the self-timer. That can like really come in handy for if you're trying to do long exposures and you have your camera on a tripod, because you cannot actually use a cable release with this camera, which is actually another drawback that it doesn't really bother me because I don't really shoot too many long exposures or do that much nighttime photography. But for someone who wants to maybe do like landscape work or anything else, like that might be a problem. But you can use the Selftimer if you don't want to have any camera shake. And then also, in comparison to a lot of Leica cameras, the film loading is very easy on this camera. You just like pull this on the bottom, and then you pull this out, and then you twist it, and that would open up the back. The back would swing open, and then you could load it like any other SLR camera, which is pretty nice considering it's a rangefinder camera. When you're using aperture priority mode, you can touch your finger on the top of the shutter button, and it's touch sensitive. So when you do that, it will light up the light meter on the inside, and when you like take your finger off, it will turn off the light. So that's a pretty advanced feature for 1980, if you ask me. So that's something really cool, and I feel like it's pretty unique to this camera. And also this camera has through the lens metering, so it's like a little checkered like patch on the inside that reads the light. I don't know like the technical like way how it does that, but it does a pretty good job at it. I haven't had many problems with coming out with bad exposures, so I trust the aperture priority mode and the light meter inside this camera. It's pretty handy actually. So overall, this camera is a great 35mm film camera. I can't really say too many bad things about it. Like, I've really enjoyed using this camera, and I actually take it out with me a lot because it's so compact, and I can put it in this little camera bag I can keep on me, and I just really enjoy shooting it. It's really nice because this is my first rangefinder camera, so I don't really have like many like other rangefinders to compare it to. But I mean, I've heard other people say good things about this camera, and I completely agree with them. Like, it's fun to use, it's compact, it's built well, it's a very cheap alternative to Leica camera, even though it's technically like partially Leica made, but it still, you know, has the Minolta name. And don't let that fool you, because this is a stellar camera, guys. So if you're thinking about getting this, I would recommend that you try it out and buy yourself one. I will include some photos at the end of this video that I've taken on this camera, even though it doesn't really show, you know, the capabilities of the camera because it's a film camera and the only thing that really matters is the lens that you put on it. But this camera does give you access to some really high quality glass. Eventually down the road, I'm probably gonna buy some Leica glass to put on this camera, just because I know that the Leica glass is very high quality and produces some amazing images. Don't get me wrong, this Voigtlander lens is amazing, and I can't complain about it, not one bit. But I do want to try maybe the Leica 28mm lens. That would probably be like the next lens I get for this camera sometime down the road. So I'd really appreciate it if you would like this video. It really helps the channel out a lot. I'm an upcoming channel, you know, I don't have a ton of videos, but I really want to start uploading more and start putting more content up on this channel, because I really enjoy making these videos and I really enjoy photography altogether. And it would be really great if you could subscribe to the channel, because I really appreciate it. And I mean, of course, only if you're interested in my content. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.